I will turn this over to Herb Cabral, and Herb is going to talk about his efforts with finding jobs and employment for people have neurodiversity challenges. Am I correct in that, Herb? You're muted if you're talking.
Yeah, that's a great explanation.
All right, so I'm going to turn this over to Herb.
Okay, yes, let's get me. Okay, let's head of the slide presentation. Okay, there we go. Eugene, thanks for having me on here today. My presentation is indeed on neuro-inclusive hiring. I'm Herb Cabral. I have a small consulting company, Cabral Neurodiversity Services. And I'll just give you a quick background on me. And I'm what gives me the passion and brought me into this field is I'm a dad of a 28-year-old. His name is Joe, and he is on the autism spectrum. So I have, as Eugene aptly said, I'm a caregiver as well, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. But I do it with great love for him, and he's a really special guy and way more talented than a lot of folks give him credit for. I came from a 40-plus year career in IT services. I retired from Hewlett Packard, running outsourcing contracts anywhere between $200 and $100 million with lots of responsibilities there. When I retired from Hewlett Packard, I became an active advocate for Joe. I went to the State House and started to meet the politicians and the legislators that are making the laws, and I found it really effective way to learn what Joe's capabilities are, as well as what he needs and what his benefits are, and how we make sure that all that happens for him. It's not easy, so being a very active advocate is really helpful. I tell everyone, I think everyone, the quality of life of their sons or daughters depend upon their level of advocacy. There's a direct result there. So being an active advocate is really important. I got involved with the ARC of Massachusetts. ARC is a national organization that deals with individuals with disability and fights for their rights. So that's part of how I got involved. And in 2018, I got involved with a company called HMEA, which is a human service provider that was in the process of getting individuals with autism hired at a company called EMC, which was locally here in Massachusetts. It was a storage manufacturer, and Dell came in and bought EMC. So the program got instituted at Dell Technologies, and in 2018 they hired 3 individuals, and that's really where the presentation I'm making today came from. A lot of larger companies beginning to create initiatives to hire neurodivergent individuals. These are basically derivative of a model that was started by a company called Specialist Stern, which was a Scandinavian company. But the model has been adopted here in the United States and has been used by multiple service providers to assist companies like Microsoft and SAP, JP Morgan Chase, Ernst & Young, Dell, and others to institute neurodiversity hiring practices. And the presentation I'm going to make today is based on that model, and also my experience working with both Dell and Empower since 2017. So what is a neurodiversity hiring program? I'll start there by just saying I've talked to so many, I've met with so many neurodivergent job seekers that have had so much trouble finding employment. There are so many hurdles that they have to get over. The employment human resource system is really exclusionary, so there's a lot of hurdles for them to get over. So what companies have done is created a specialized hiring process for these neurodivergent individuals. It's kind of a side door into their HR system. It's an adapted HR process that is really specifically designed for neurodivergent individuals. And it's very much a skill-based training and assessment program than the typical interviews are more socially based. But the way that it is conducted in neurodiversity hiring programs is more skill-based, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. There's some specialized recruiting. It's kind of how you find these individuals that are really having trouble finding jobs. There are a lot of agencies out there that serve these individuals that we work with. There are also advocacy agencies that we work with. A lot of that is trying to reach parents. A lot of times it is as important to reach parents as it is to reach the individuals, because a lot of them self-select themselves out of opportunities. So it's a totally different hiring process and very skills based. What's the opportunity for the employers? Is something that's really important. This is a really untapped talent pool. There's a great video from Dell that they made right after their first cohort in 2018 that is actually available. You can link to that from my website, which I'll show you later on. It is an untapped talent pool of individuals that are, in some cases, these individuals kind of sit in their rooms and teach themselves programming languages. So they typically wouldn't even know that these folks had these skills. So it's finding them and it's reaching them. But it's a very untapped talent pool of very highly skilled individuals. They're extremely productive. A lot of the studies that have been done within the companies that have done neurodiversity hiring shows that these folks are significantly productive, and it really makes a big difference in their bottom line. They're economical. Most of them come in at entry-level positions, so the investment is lower than it would be in higher-ranking individuals. The retention rates are really astronomical. Some of them are in the 90% range. Some companies have experienced as high as 90% in their retention rates. And I think if you talk to a human resource professional about retention rates and you start talking about anything over 60 or 70%, that's pretty significant. And that's definitely some of these traits. What's important for executive management? Well, so much notice is given today about diversity and inclusion in companies. This is really something that hits in the diversity and inclusion area within companies' policies. Organizational transformation is also a result of that. When we did the very first hiring cohort at Dell, the human resource guy who was in charge at the time told everybody in the cohort that they were individuals that were changing the culture of Dell. And they have changed the culture of Dell, and they've changed the culture in many companies. They kind of look at problems and solve problems in different ways. They're noticed. That's noticed by their managers. It's noticed by their coworkers, and it really helps transform some of these organizations. The long-term commitment to the process is really important. It's important to not just be a one-off or not just doing it for any kind of social causes. It's important for it to be a commitment to hire long-term. What we've seen a lot of the companies that have put these programs in place experience is they start off small, but they grow the programs over time. Scaling is one of the things that it's a challenge, and it's a lot of companies are still figuring it out. But it's a long-term commitment to the process so that it becomes part of the typical HR process as opposed to being one-off hiring. We really get that with the executive involvement. I've seen emails from Michael Dell who acknowledges the program. Other CEOs talk about the programs as well, and it's really important to have that level of commitment. You know, you're changing your HR policy, so your CEO is going to be involved, and that's what helps drive the long-term success of these programs. Some of the early adopters, like Microsoft and E&Y and JP Morgan Chase, put together something called the Autism at Work Roadmap, and they did that probably in 2016 or 17 or so. So that's, but it's really helpful for a company who is looking at the process for the first time, trying to figure it out. So that's also something you can download from my website. I've got that up there. So it can be downloaded, and it's really a great tool for a company who's just entering into that process. What are the elements of a neurodiversity hiring program? I'm a big vision mission guy, so I think it's important for a company to have a vision of what they want their neurodiversity program to look like, and what that mission is going to look like, how they're going to accomplish that. And that's something very important to have up front. Once again, talking about executive level support, which I think is really, really important. That's a key element to the longevity and the success of the programs. Having a local partner, and in the case of Dell, they used HMEA, which I was consultant to HMEA at the time. It is a local partner, and part of the real advantage there is HMEA knew where to find the individuals that were going to be recruited, and that's really important to have the right type of recruiting that finds the right individuals that you're trying to reach, and they're not easy to find, so you have to do some unique recruiting. It's different than a typical recruiting process. So that's part of what the local partner does.
This is a real issue. Like
is conduct that recruiting process, and also the local partner will.
Is that on your end?
Somebody
needs to mute.
No, somebody needs to mute. Yeah. So helping the local partner also helps in the candidate contact. When I first started contacting these individuals, they're really intimidated. They don't know who they're talking to. And so I would try to meet them at a local library. It seemed like a pretty neutral location. So it really helped ease that first meeting. Post-pandemic, everything was done pretty much remote via video conference. But once again, the initial contact meetings were really important. And the evaluation process of who was going to participate in the cohorts really was important as well. And that's another part of what the local partner does. In most cases, we're working directly with the company, so that we're sharing resumes with the company, but we're really helping them in the evaluation and who's going to participate. Once the hiring decisions are made, there's typically we help during the onboarding process. It's pretty daunting for some of these individuals, so we're available for help in that. And then post-hire support, we act as job coaches for these individuals. It's the first 8 to 12 weeks is typically a internship-based or apprenticeship-based time period where they're being evaluated, and then they get hired full-time. Once they're during that evaluation process, and once they get hired, we do work with them and act as job coaches. And it's really, I've had a lot of fun doing it, and it's great to help these folks through. And in a lot of cases, they're in jobs that they never really thought they'd get to. So it's really great for them. It's very transformational in their lives to get these opportunities.
So, Herb, Eugene, you've been talking about large corporations and large companies. The majority of the people that hire are smaller, medium-sized businesses that are not nationwide. How could we get this down to the municipalities, to those mom and pops, those medium-sized businesses?
That's that's the question that a lot of people ask. I think it's a kind of a burning question. I address it a little bit later in the presentation as a frontier, just because it really hasn't been solved yet. I think there's some work going on there. I'm talking to some Chamber of Commerce organizations. I think is a great way to try to reach those small and medium-sized businesses. But it's definitely a frontier. The larger companies have a lot more resources to be able to create these programs and do these one-off hiring programs. But the small and the medium-sized companies really don't have those capabilities. So I think that there's going to be emphasis on the colleges here locally. Northeastern University in Boston. I don't know how familiar folks are with the Northeastern program, but it is a co-op based program. So you go to school and you work as part of your degree program. And Northeastern has started a Neurodiversity co-op program. So they'll be supporting neurodivergent individuals in the college setting while they're doing their work towards their degree. I think that's a possibility that the colleges start creating some of these neurodiversity programs to help some of the smaller companies. Chambers of Commerce, I think, are also an opportunity for getting small and medium-sized companies aware of the advantages of hiring these individuals and maybe making it easier for them. I think
you hit the key right there. That word is that it's not just charity. That there are benefits and there are challenges, and I think that's the approach that would be the most beneficial to the success.
Yeah, and like I say, I kind of talked to that a little bit later in the presentation too.
Okay, I'll stop interrupting you then.
That's okay. So information for hiring managers and coworkers. I've worked with, also work with the hiring managers, both before and during the cohort. We talked to them about the unique characteristics of neurodivergent individuals and make suggestions on the best ways to manage them and managing to their strengths. An example would be to give them very direct directions. Don't use euphemisms. Be very literal with them. Give very clear time constraints on assignments. Communication suggestions for the managers on how to best manage these individuals and more set themselves up for success. So we do manager training ahead of time. We give them some documentation as well. And during the job coaching process, we work with both the individuals as well as the managers. We check in with the managers every once in a while too. So that really works well. The hiring managers, I've heard more than one say that they are better managers after this process because they had to manage this individual a little bit differently than they typically do. But the productivity gains were significant. So it caused them to think about, gee, maybe I need to manage everybody a little bit differently and more individually. So the managers have had great success. I think they definitely leveraged the job coach as well. Co-workers, they see these individuals look at problems and solve problems in different ways. And they see that and they start thinking about, maybe I should be thinking about things in different ways as well. So it's if everybody just understands and learns how to communicate and how to manage, things work really, really well in these situations. Disclosure is really important. The hiring managers know that they're hiring a neurodivergent individual because that's part of the program that they signed up for. The individuals, we always allow the individuals to be their own advocates with regard to disclosure. So once they're in their work groups, they disclose as they see fit. And some of them do disclose, some of them don't disclose. Some of them disclose to folks that they feel comfortable in that situation with. So that's information for hiring managers and co-workers. Part of the skill-based process that I talked about is it's typically a week or a 2-week training and assessment period where it's typically on site, although there are other programs now that are doing it strictly one-on-ones. But the experience I've had where we started in the training with social skills, it's important to review. Some of these folks have not had any work experience, so it's important to talk about social skills. It's important to talk about social landscape, communication skills and tools that are used in the workplace. So that's part of what the first week or few days of the training would really concentrate on. We work with them on creating an elevator pitch so that they're able to use that not only with the hiring managers in the particular program that they're in, but it's also a skill that they can take with them for further job searches as well. We also help them create a skill or project profile, some of the things that they've done in the past, or an example of programming language that they may know how to use, that they've done a project on. Once again, to use that with hiring managers, but it's also another skill that's great for job searches. Project management, it's funny that every high school and every college gives individuals and students projects to do, but rarely is there any kind of project management education that goes on. But project management is not necessarily part of it. So we talk to them about project management and having some kind of methodology. We use a little bit of design thinking. There's lots of different ways to approach a project. We just use that as an example. But we actually give them a project to participate in that helps them show their skills. So we basically assign them tasks that are within their skill set so that they are able to show hiring managers what their skills are. Things that you don't see on a resume. I can't tell you how many resumes I've looked at, but one of the things you will not see in a resume is collaboration, leadership, and the ability to make a presentation. So we basically work with them on a lot of times it just happens within the work groups. You see who are collaborators, who are the individuals who step up in leadership positions within the groups, and then who makes the presentations of their role in the results that they had in that presentation. Is the very last day of the cohort. They all make a presentation on what they've done in their projects. The hiring managers are all present. They come in and out throughout the course of the cohort training. And at the end of that, they make decisions on who they hire. Just to give you an idea of the support structure that we try to create in these situations, not everybody has each one of these elements, but most of the individuals, some of which are connected with vocational rehabs and having personal counselors, families that advise them. There are on the work side, there is a team manager that they'll be assigned to. Typically, they create a mentor within the work group that becomes a team buddy, if you will. And there's also a job coach that helps with the role of job coach kind of goes over into life skills as well, just because so many of them carry that their life situations into the job. So it helps for the job coach to talk about both the job as well as kind of how to keep yourself ready to come to work and prepared to come to work, and those kind of things. Just so you get a chance to see that whole organizational support structure that goes on in these programs. I put together just examples of some of the hires. Dell Technologies from 2018 to now, they've probably hired over 50 candidates. A lot of their hiring process now is it's no longer one-off hiring. They go and they hire big groups of these folks. Their program has become more mature. Empower just started in 2022, so they're still working on that program. Matter of fact, I think they're starting up their third cohort here in the next week or so. So they'll have even more folks hired in that program, and they are definitely looking at growing that program to multiple locations within Empower. Dell has already done that. So these are examples of companies who have implemented these programs and are in the process of scaling programs. The types of roles that have been filled are starting to become more varied. A lot of the roles started out as technical roles, but most of the programs are expanding beyond the technical roles. Just some quick numbers. You can look at the internet all day long and find all kinds of different percentages, but just to get an example of the number of folks that have disabilities and what percentage of the workforce that is. I used to tell the school district during my son's IEP meetings that this is your workforce. This is part of your workforce. You have the tool to accept these individuals into your workforce. You know, as many programs, many companies that have DEI or disability and equality and inclusion programs, a lot of them don't include neurodiversity or even disability as part of those programs. So that needs to be addressed. A lot of folks, when we did the very first hiring manager training at Dell, a couple of the hiring managers said, gee, I have a couple of these guys on my staff now, because they could just tell. So there's a lot of folks out there who are hiding that disability. It takes a lot for them to mask that. So those are things that need to change because you need to make people more comfortable at work to be much more productive if they're made to feel more comfortable. So, I think Eugene, you may have talked about kind of what the advantages are for the companies that hire these individuals. You know, you hear all kinds of companies talk about how difficult it is to find individuals. So here's a big untapped workforce, lower staff turnover based on the staff retention of these individuals. And they are really, really focused, and it really helps achieve higher revenue in a lot of cases. A couple more numbers. I was at a neurodiversity event recently, and I heard a presentation by two students from Harvard and MIT. Both Harvard and MIT received significant grants for autism research in the last year or two. And some of that research now is starting to be published. And I think that thinking about positive employment outcomes and what makes a positive employment outcome, how do you judge that, is really important information. And coming from institutions like Harvard and MIT, that research is going to be fabulous. There is an organization called Neurodiversity in the Workplace, who also work with many large companies putting neurodiversity programs in place. Are having an event April 23rd. There's a link on my website that you can register for that as well. And it's emerging research, and I think that a lot of the research that has been done by these students at MIT and Harvard is going to be released and talked about in that meeting. So I think that'd be really important for anybody who's interested in that.
Can you put that link in the chat, Herb, during the next presentation?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat to go to my website, and it's right in the links section of my website. It's on
Sounds
there.
good. All right, you're down to about 10 minutes, so.
Yeah, I'm on the last couple slides here.
Okay.
And I talked about this frontier earlier, and here's the small and medium-sized businesses, and that is a frontier, really is a frontier. And I think that one of the things that I'm trying to focus on is to try to reach some of those small and medium-sized businesses. And I think that chambers of commerce and other business groups like that can be a way into that group. And programs like the Northeastern Co-op student opportunity gives a smaller company a chance to take on a Northeastern Co-op student, pay them at a college kid kind of rate or entry level type of rate, and have a neurodivergent student in their midst, and that's a great way to get started. That's pretty sustainable and affordable and accessible, I think is really the key in that small and medium-sized business area. To have a sustainable program is really important. It definitely affects company culture. You're seeing a lot of companies really changing that culture based on their diversity programs. The scaling of these programs is a frontier as well. I was on an event recently where individuals from Microsoft and Dell and EY were all talking about that's kind of where their focus is now, is scaling their programs. They have these programs in place. How do you scale them? How do you upskill the individuals? What are the long-term careers of these folks? What's that look like? I think assistive technology is a big frontier as well. Dell has actually started an assistive technology function that will help these individuals evaluate some of these products, and that'll help them be more effective. Excuse me. And lastly, behavioral health. I've seen a lot of folks who they struggle sometimes, and they need more behavioral health opportunities. A lot of the big company health benefit systems don't really have behavioral health as an option. They have mental health as an option, and they send these folks to psychologists and social workers, but they really need behavioral health programs that are part of these big company benefit programs. And I think that's something that's really important for everybody who's neurodivergent, is to have that behavioral health option, because many of them really need it. And I'm seeing a big gap there that's not really being addressed by the big corporate benefit systems. So if your organization has a neurodiversity hiring program, get involved. It's really important. If your organization doesn't have a neurodiversity hiring program, help start one. And that's my contact information, and I'll put my email and website in the chat for anybody who'd like to get in contact. There is a video of a Dell presentation that's you can watch on my website. There is a link to register for the Neurodiversity in the Workplace event. And there's also a download of the Autism at Work playbook that you can get there too.
All right, thank you, Herb. I want to open it up for questions, comments.
Excuse me.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I work for a chamber of commerce that specializes in neurodiversity. And one question I've always had about the hiring process for companies that have neurodiverse programs is, does the neurodiverse applicant have any say on how they want to interview? Like, are they able to interview by phone, interview in person? Like, do they have any kind of input on how they can interview them that best works for them?
Yeah, the ones that I've had experience at have been in person, but I know that other organizations, and it's probably become more prevalent of some of these events being more either hybrid or via video conference. Typically, the individuals, everybody in that cohort is going to participate the same way. So I guess the answer to your question is not always, but I think that's probably the right way to implement these programs in the long term. because I've seen folks who would just not be able to attend in person just because they don't, they're just not able to do that. So I think it is really important to have that kind of accommodation for individuals in the interview process. Many of the barriers are around folks who they don't know who they're going to talk to, and they don't know what questions they're going to be asked, and they are really at the company's time frame versus them knowing the individuals they're going to talk to, the questions that they're going to be asked, having some time to process that. And sometimes I've known that one of the guys I worked with for a while got a job at Mass Mutual, and they gave him time in between his interviews rather than trying to go one after the other. So I guess the answer to your question is I think that's a great thing for these programs in the longer term, is to really look at what makes the individual comfortable in the area of communication like that. It really should be driven by the individual.
Great. Thank you.
All right, Alan, you had a question? You're muted, Alan.
Thank you. My name is Alan Home, H-O-M-E, and last name I forgot to put it into the chat, into my ID, so I just want to put that out there. I had a question. First of all, you mentioned in your slide that 1 in 4 adults identify with having a disability. Is that from HIPAA records, or Social Security identify themselves as being disabled, or self-identification using a